The Leafs lose 2-0 to the Florida Panthers. 2-2 now is the series. The next game will be on Wednesday back in Toronto. The Leafs, they drop both games in Sunrise, where it really looked like they needed one of those two to split the series and then come back home and eventually and potentially close the game out, the series out on Wednesday, but they get neither. They don't even get pity points like in game 3, a hard fought overtime loss. They didn't even get that. They get nothing. And they deserve nothing, honestly. Especially for the game last night.
How important would that overtime have been now? Like, I think a lot of Leafs fans look at that game 3 and think, well, they battled hard the Craig Berube way, and it just didn't get done. And okay, Brad Marchand scores the goal, not great, but like, look at how the puck went in. Every goal in game 3 seemed to fall in off a leg, off of a helmet, like over the shoulder. And that's been the way the playoffs have been. I feel like every series you've seen goals like that. And you're going, okay, well, game 4, they'll be back. And it just seemed like it was a completely different matchup. It felt like Florida did have their foot on the gas and kind of took over. So it is interesting to retrospectively look at game 3 and think maybe the Leafs should have taken that one. It would have taken the sting out of Sunday night for sure.
That was like, forget about immediate feeling right after game 3. I let my mind drift there in the overtime. Like, I was in my head already saying, man, 3-0 versus 2-1. Like, it's a really big difference. And I've let my mind do that before, and it did not end up well the other time. It was when I was 13, 14, watching the Boston Bruins come back against the Leafs. I was in that third period, and I'm like, wow, Leafs are going to go up against the New York Rangers and Henrik Lundqvist in the second round. This is really cool. And it doesn't happen. So I let my mind wander in that game 3 overtime. And yeah, that is definitely like the coulda, shoulda, woulda game. Because I think immediate feeling coming out of that one was, man, we almost stole it. Like, it was one bounce and we almost had it. We didn't deserve to win that game, but we were right there. And then last night, that would have been the steal of all steals. God forbid the Leafs somehow got one before Sam Bennett puts the second marker up. And I mean, Wall was kind of the only positive of the game. Like, he had the performance, he had the counter punch coming out of his game 3 that at least gave the Leafs a chance in game 4. But frustration is the only word after last night. And it feels pretty focused. I don't know if you guys have any frustration specific other than where I think mostly fans' heads are at. I don't know. Before we get into, I feel like, what is the main talking point.
I mean, there's really nothing much else to say other than one guy came prepared to play yesterday, and 20 plus other guys really didn't. And it's not even like there was like any pushback until the last 10 seconds of the game when stuff started to get kind of testy, right? Like, there was a couple of big hits here and there, but I thought for the most part, everybody just looked sedated. They looked stuck in mud. They looked rudderless. It's game 4 of a highly intense playoff matchup, and nobody has, like, I don't know, the will, the dignity to go out there and like do something. Like, nobody was doing anything. I don't know.
Yeah,
they just get right into
tired.
it.
Like, I'm not
They look
saying
sun-kissed.
I'm not saying they are tired, but like, the look was tired.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of that has to do with, I think coming into last night's game, the Florida Panthers were the league leaders in postseason hits by a mile. And I haven't looked at what the actual hit numbers were last night, but there's no way they didn't widen that gap. As I noticed, especially, there was just coming out of I want to say it was the first or second commercial break in the second period. I just noted I noticed the concerted effort by the Florida Panthers to finish every single check harder than they were before, and they were already like finishing their checks generally, but there was an emphasis on finishing their checks.
God God bless Chris Tanev, because that guy might have
Oh my
God.
the record
Pucks for
amount,
breakfast, shoulders for lunch,
and then knees
elbows for dinner.
Yeah, elbows
Yeah,
for dinner.
like-
The guy's getting folded up more than an accordion on the streets of Paris right now.
Let's
That's
go.
like ridiculous, and nobody's there to help him out. That you're willingly watching your like the leader on the ice just get mollywopped, and
Here's the
nobody
thing,
wants
too,
to say
is-
anything.
The way to help him out isn't like, okay, every time Tanev gets checked in the corner, you go and rough up the guy who did it. No, it's you just finish your checks as
Yeah,
well. Like
do
you go
the
get
exact
there,
same.
Chris Tanev. You make Gustav Forsling have to really brace for every single breakout pass he makes. So that's it. You kind of have to give them a taste of their own medicine type of deal. And I don't really think we did that last night. And it's something that I think generally we have been good at throughout the playoffs. So I don't know. I'm very, very torn. I'm actually feeling, I think, more calm. Not optimistic is not
Yeah.
the word, but I'm pretty level-headed today versus like fast or flashback to like when the Leafs go down or they lose 2 games to the Ottawa Senators in a row. I think our mental at that point, or at least I'll speak for myself, like my mental at that point was a lot more fragile than it is today, personally.
Yeah, I think I'd say that like they had this exact game was played in Game 5 of their first series, and a lot of Leaf fans. It was the first time in the playoffs that they'd seen this iteration of the Leafs sort of look listless and just not prepared for a game. And my thought was, you can have this game against the Ottawa Senators. You don't want to, but if you need to have one, you can have one. And as long as they're back Game 6 and they're putting their best foot forward, and Craig Berube behind the bench kind of brings them back into this version of what we've noticed out of Toronto, we're fine. You can't have this kind of game against Florida. And maybe that comes to bite me, and maybe they can and they win the next 2. Like you said, Christian, I think when I was watching this game, I processed this loss halfway through the first. I was like, we've seen this before. They're not coming back. Like, and credit to Joe Wall for allowing them to even have the conversation. Like, hey, we need one. They said it on the Sportsnet intermission. Every guy in the panel, even Blake Wheeler, was like, they can win this game. And I'm thinking, like, I love the optimism, and they like from a literal standpoint, they are 1 goal behind. But we've seen this version of the Leafs before, and I know they're different now, but like the game's done, right? So I already processed this loss at least halfway through the first, going, okay, what's the next step? Do I feel concerned? Do I feel nervous? And I think that's a good way to put it. I don't feel like confident, but at the same time, Justin said it. I said it on one of the podcasts we recently had, I think, with the SLS General. Like, it is a tied series now. And this is what we kind of wanted. We wanted more, but we would have taken this as Leafs fans, like, at the beginning of the series,
100%.
I think. Right, Dave? Yeah.
Well, listen, our predictions coming in, I had Panthers in 6. Christian had Panthers in 7. Right?
Mm.
The both of us got like Christian got flamed on our socials. He was getting flamed by people that were just like,
Yes, sir.
that were just like, you have to back the Leafs. It's like, no, we don't always have to back them when we don't feel as confident. Like, it doesn't make us better or worse fans for being realistic. Like, if you would have said to me at the beginning of this series that the Leafs were going to head back Game 5 with a 2-2 series, considering the context of the last time that the Leafs played the Panthers, heading into Game 5, they were on the brink of elimination and quite literally looked horror awful for 3 of the 4 previous games before that. I would have been like, all right, give it to me. It's a tied up series, best of 3 now. Here we go. But now in the context of 2025 and seeing that they went up 2-0 on home ice, which 2 years ago, if you would have told me that they were a perfect on home ice against the Panthers, which they seemingly could not do, I would have been like, oh my God, it is a Christmas miracle. Maybe something's happening. But now it's like, it's full of like regrets and full of like loss. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been so much better. And I don't want to excuse, like, I can't excuse poor performances like that. I know a lot of people tried excusing that poor performance in Game 5. I'm sorry, I have a tough time in defending guys that make generational amounts of wealth. And I know it doesn't come down to that, but it's like you guys are getting paid to play a professional sport, like a sport for a living. I'm sorry if people don't feel like you should get the benefit of the doubt sometimes, even when you're not at your peak level performance. I know it's unfair. I get it. But that's just something that you have to deal with when you're playing in a market like this. I'm sorry. Maybe it's unfair. Am I being like too unreasonable? Maybe. I'll admit it. Maybe I am. Everybody is like awarded at least like a few off days. Everybody has them. I get it. But it's like, guys, how can 20 people have all their off days sync up together? It's ridiculous. That game reminded me of like a Sheldon Keefe playoff loss. You know what that game really reminded me of? Game 7 against Montreal in 2021.
Yeah, that's a good example.
That's as close to as a listless hockey game as the Leafs have ever played in this era.
You could also throw, I feel like even the
Columbus one,
Game 5.
The year before?
Game 5 against Columbus.
Did they get shut out
oh, man.
that game too?
You know what? I think I was going to say I thought so. I feel like I remember a very late Willie goal that made me just be like, oh,
the
course.
Montreal one, I know
so
they didn't get shut out until like...
Yeah, no. I think, honestly, once again, I'm going to come in with a little bit of maybe the other side here. I feel like we've actually seen that type of performance a couple times this year in the regular season. And I can't come to you with a specific example, but we'd have games, especially in the first half of the year. Think back to like that early Tampa domination win. And then I think right after we had
the Columbus
awful loss to Columbus. I think one to St. Louis as well. Like it's a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde, but on the balance of the entire season, we've seen more of the buy-in than we haven't, right? So, you know what? We haven't seen like total, like I said, referenced before, like counterpunch, right? Because if you wanted the counterpunch, it would have been in Game 4. This is now back against the wall in a sense. It's not an elimination game, but you're back to a clean slate. Yeah. And they showed up when it was a clean slate to start this series. This is the second chance to do the same. This is a cliche, but cliches at least have half truths. Haven't lost on home ice yet against the Florida Panthers, like you mentioned, Dave. Only one loss in the playoffs on home ice so far to the Sens in that game, Game 5 that you mentioned. So, I still think that there's a world where this is the only world really where I think you win the series. Is it's bringing that consistency over a full 60, because the Florida Panthers, it feels like they can get by with an 85% effort and still beat the Leafs if they're not on their game. But you look at the Leafs' 2 wins, they had to be as close to 100% in terms of their game to get 1-goal wins, right? That's kind of what it felt like in those games. And I think that basically has to be the standard through the series. I know that's easy to say. Play good the entire game, but that's the bar against the Cup champs. Like they didn't take a break in either of these past 2 games.
Well, listen, on that same point, a big reason why for those 2 games, like you're talking about 60-minute efforts, but the Leafs, even in their wins, have had, and even in the Game 3 loss where they were up by 2 goals multiple times, they had one period that kind of capsized that result, because Game 1, I was there, you go up 4-1 and it's the mid-second period into the third, and for 20 minutes you allow the Panthers to kind of like just start pouring it on. And now, listen, we can talk about the play of Joseph Wall through the first 3 games besides last night, and maybe it wasn't up to 100% like what we know he's capable of, but it's not like the guys in front of him gave him much to work with for the most part during those stretches. So if you can limit even those 20-minute stretches where it's downtime and the Panthers are just going to pour on the pressure, if you can bend but don't break in those situations as well, I think that's going to go a long way to help winning the series. Because they're not going to score 5 on Bob every night. I know it looked possible through the first 3 games of the series, but okay, maybe last night is a little bit unfair because they genuinely got I haven't seen worse pressure on a goaltender in the 8 seasons, 9 seasons of this current iteration of Maple Leafs hockey. There's been very few.
It was just like the one attempt by Matthew Nyes in front, and like, cause he not even the breakaway.
That was
the breakaway.
Yeah.
The breakaway. I'm like, you've scored a couple breakaway goals. We can forgive you for that. I mean, I was a little upset he missed the net completely. I'm like, you got to at least fire a puck on net. But
I think that's he's probably the series now too. And he's used 3 different moves, right?
Yeah.
So you got to try something, right? But I think it's like maybe gripping the stick too tight. Like, this is your first, like, the Leafs' first chance. There's a lot riding on one goal, and this kid is still like, I want to give him grace because you can't flip on a guy like him. He's been arguably one of, if not the top, outside of maybe Nylander, and we can even talk about his performance.
I was going to say, what other players on the team have had breakaway opportunities in this series?
Yes,
those are the only 2 that.
And Matt.
And if you go,
yeah.
If you go back to last series, the other guy you showing is Marner in game 1, like that. But those guys consistently, it feels like once a game. Maybe if it's not a clean breakaway, it's a partial break at some point, and they both had one last night, right?
Yeah,
you're right. Like there was no chance generation in that third period. I mean, outside of that third period, and it was it was nothing that you ever really felt confident in. It was that nice chance in front where it's a slight hesitation, puts it into Bob's pad. Bob is. They did not pressure Bob. You're right, but he made the saves he had to, and as long as he's mirroring Wall, you're gonna have a tough time winning. You need Wall to be 1 goal better than Bob. Like that is what you're gonna be expecting out of him. I do feel confident that you can get a game or 2 like that after last night. I feel like. Yes, we can talk Nyes and Willie, and those 2 have been the most consistent threats, but it's also like who hasn't been.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people are having like the Matthews conversation here. Where are you guys at? Because how many times can we say like you're bringing it defensively, you're bringing it in the face-off dot, and he is like being great in the details, and we know that's something that has been basically part of his game since he came into the league. I've still noticed like in game 3, it kind of gets lost, but I noticed at least 2 pretty bad giveaways by Austin, one in our zone and one in the neutral zone. The neutral zone one actually led to, if you guys remember, Brad Marchand's like 2-on-1 chance. I think it was in the second period. He had a nice look at Wall there, but on the whole, we're going to give him the pass defensively, maybe even with flying colors. Offensively, and we know he's playing hurt.
Yeah.
You cannot give him a pass. It's a failing grade. Is there a way, though? Like, if we're the teachers and Austin's coming to us and he's saying, how can I get back to a passing grade? Is there anything I can do? Is there an answer? Do you have anything that you can give to Austin and say, if you do this for me and it's doable, then you're good?
Yeah, I know. Just
it's
definitely.
He has no goals in 9 games against the Panthers right now.
He doesn't. He leads the playoffs in missed shots. But I bring this up in the sense of he is not going to score a curl and drag wrister from the point, top of the circles, in the slot, whatever you want to call it. That is not going to be happening here. Okay, so for whatever reason, the shot does not exist. The velocity is down. The accuracy is down. The thing that made Austin Matthews a 69 goal scorer a year ago is that he can do it in so many different ways. And it's not just pretty ways. It can be dirty ways too. And I think that's what I'm most disappointed in so far is we haven't seen him make that adaptation yet. Right? Like to me on the power play, honestly, and maybe they do it to keep Florida honest, I would take Austin off of either flank. I would put him as the net front guy. I think at this point with the shot, you feel more confident in Nyes, who I know is great around the net. He's awesome, but he's also got a great shot. And JT, we saw at points in the regular season, like he was giving us the vintage JT looks from the half wall sometimes. So that's where I'm at, especially on the power play. Like I think that's a very easy adjustment, and I don't think any of us would be feeling uncomfortable with Austin at the net front, right?
I would say he has to go to the net front even at 5-on-5. Like
Yeah, he needs to adapt his game there too.
Yeah, like you said, dude, that this is one of the best even strength goal scorers since he came into the league in 2017, and I can guarantee you every single one of those goals have not come off of his patented, curl and drag, his quick release.
No
A
one
lot of
tees.
Yeah, a lot of them have come in from within 5 feet of the crease. And dude, honestly, even if he's not the one poking the puck home, but he's just in and around the crease for maybe a Matthew Nyes thing. I would like to see Marner get into those dirty areas a little bit more too. Like, just crowd Bob, make him feel uncomfortable. I
Yeah,
feel like they
man.
got away from that yesterday because they were making Bob look and feel uncomfortable. I would say in the first two games, 100%. That first game where I was in person for the top six made Bob look human,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It had people questioning if he was hurt. And maybe he slightly is banged up. He's played a lot of hockey over the past 2.5 years now. But listen, if you make it easy for Bob, hurt or not hurt, the guy is gonna, he's gonna stone you if you don't get, good pressure on him. I don't know.
Mando, where are you at with Matthews before we can touch on Martin too, but where
Sure.
are you at with Austin?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody else, it's hard to watch and think. Like, he just doesn't have the same dominant touch. He's clearly injured of some capacity, and yeah, you said it with the defensive side. I would love to see a transition for him. Maybe Craig moves him around, or maybe Mark Savard has an idea of how to juice the power play up a little. My only concern about putting him net front is, will he be if he's already injured in some way, is he going to have the same horse mentality, or is he going to be a little bit more afraid out front? Because Ekblad and those guys are pounding the guys in front of the net. Like, Bobby McMahon got boxed out multiple times. Bobby McMahon is not Austin Matthews. He's Bobby McMatthews we've seen in the past. He's the mini Matthews for stretches, right? And Matthews has size as well, clearly. But I mean, it is playoff hockey, and he's been here before. So I can't be you can't be a Mark Savard saying, "Oh, I know you're concerned about it, and maybe just be careful." I'm sure Matthews will be just as interested to try and change his game up. He's noticed he's not a dumb captain. He knows what he's doing, and he knows that he hasn't performed probably up to his standard. So I don't hate that idea. I just wonder if it works given the fact that he's injured. Does he give as much pushback as he normally would? But that could be true of any type of goal scoring that we haven't seen from him. We kind of have to see some switch up. I honestly
think
even
that's
just
a good
think
point.
in the power
just the
play
idea that if it was any team other than Florida, you're right. I probably am I'm probably doubling down on put him at the net front, put him at the net front. But it is true, you put him at the net front against Florida, and he's taking I think it was in that Montreal series. Remember the Sherratt, or it was either Sherratt or Weber right to the
Cross
back, right?
checks,
And
yeah.
so he would be eating those on the power play. So maybe it is, and you said it's playoffs, you kind of have to put the body on the line,
lay it on the line.
I was gonna not try to say it.
Don't.
But,
yeah, I have PTSD right now.
So, anyways, but yeah, that's a fair point. I actually
that commercial. I love that song.
We can get into that after.
We'll save it.
I honestly, we'll save it. Sorry, Mando. I cut you off there. I just wanted to
not at all
make the point too.
No, it's a very fair point. I do want to suggest it's a good idea. I just have that one concern. But again, I'm sure they've looked at all of an option from all angles.
Yeah.
And we could bounce all over the place, but just now that we're talking about the power play, I wonder if it is time for a defenseman back on there. I know that was a conversation about the fact that the penalty kill of Florida is so aggressive and they're getting those shorthanded chances. And maybe it's just the one game, but Marner did look like he wasn't having the best time on the quarterback position at the top, and he was getting exposed a lot. And the problem is one game is enough sample size in the postseason, and so I wonder if you need a guy back there to be a better flank and just prepared, because the PK is a lot different from Ottawa. We've seen that through the first three, but more specifically in Game 4, they were really getting to the blue line. So I wonder if that's a change that's necessary, but something in general should be switched up there.
100%, but I just don't know if they have the horses.
They don't
to put.
Unfortunately.
Dude, I will come on here and I will tell you, I love Morgan Riley, and every single playoff goal that he scored this year, it injects something into my veins that really does it for me. I've loved Morgan Riley since he was drafted in 2012. But dude, you saw the night and day difference. I think it was in game 1 as well, where Riley had to come in for I believe it was Matthew Nyes who
That was apparently, it wasn't even a had to come in. It was a coaching decision of about like trying to preserve the lead, like on the power play, being conservative and going with Riley there.
and it looked like literally night and day different. I don't know. I've seen what this team looks like at its best with the 5 forward guys, and I'm still taking that over a defensively responsible power play, whatever you want to call it, like to preserve a lead. Like if you need a goal, I think you still need those 5 guys on, but I think the like switching up the personnel, or even like when you're 0-3, you're going on to your 4th power play. Why not just play the second unit who have 2 power play goals this series? The first unit, do they have 1? They got 1 with JT last game, right? The other unit has more goals.
That was brought up. I think that was brought up on the broadcast yesterday, mainly because I think the top line was out there for about 45 seconds prior to, I think, when Matthews got tripped. I think it was the second. And the conversation was like, I wonder if they put out their second unit just to kind of get the rest, and they didn't. They did go with the top line, and obviously we saw them not score. So that's not a direct correlation to what could have happened, but it's a conversation. You never know if it would just be best to kind of get those guys buzzing in the offensive zone, and then when they're hemmed in, Florida, maybe then you bring in those top dogs. I mean, I think anything at this point is on the table because they're not scoring, and Florida's PK is just dominating.
The special teams battle was something I was very concerned of coming in. Like, you look how Florida especially shut down that Tampa power play, and we got the laundry list of Tampa injuries, so that's definitely part of it. But going back to the regular season too, I mean, you have not 1 but 2 Selke finalists on the Florida Panthers, and a lot of that has to do with what those guys do on the PK, right? Like Reinhardt's been a leader in shorthanded goals for a couple years now. That is part of their identity, and I really don't know if there's really a combination, any type of way that you can line us up that I'm gonna feel comfortable that we can win the special teams battle, which sucks to say, but I really think it's more important for us to get back to the shot generation at 5-on-5, and you're at least trying to not sink on the special teams. And there was some good power plays last night. Like especially I think their first one, they really generated everything but a goal, it felt like, or at least the motion was really good. But I don't see us winning that battle. I really don't.
They only had 1 shot through those first 2 power plays, and I think that only shot came on that first one that you're alluding to. So they can have the motion, but you also do need the finish. Like this is go time now. Like sorry, what else can you say about it?
We're at everybody's favorite part of playoff series with the Toronto Maple Leafs, where we get to bring up all the game 5 to 7 stats.
Well, it's coming back, right?
Those will definitely be coming back. Speaking of which, like, I guess we can wrap up here with what do we see the rest of the way. I'm going to stick to what I said to start the series, which was they will make us believe, and they did that. I joked in our chat, took them 30 seconds for me to believe. And like by the end of game 2, I think a lot of us were there. I still, like, as much as I say Panthers in 7, like, I still see there is a very narrow window to winning the series, but I do think that this is going to end up in a game 7. I honestly think we stay perfect on home ice here. I think that next game, I don't see us losing 3 in a row. If you do lose tomorrow, it feels like it might be
done.
I don't know. It feels like wrapped up in 6 maybe, because I guess what I'm projecting is I feel like game 5 win,
game 6 loss.
Game 6 loss, and game 7 you throw it all on the table, and God, who knows.
And listen, man, if they take it to game 7, if you want to talk about, all the stats and numbers coming up, they haven't gone to a game 7. They went only 6 in the first round, right?
Yeah.
And any series that they've won hasn't gone 7, right? It hasn't gone the distance.
Yep.
So I don't know. I really don't. I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you there, though, Christian. I can see this team remaining perfect, but I could also see Florida remaining perfect, like at home. You know what I mean? So it evens each other out. So it does get us to that last game. So then, what comes first, right? What streak gets broken? The game seven, the game seven demons, or that home perfect record streak? Like what gets
Yeah.
burned first, right? And I'm still as inclined to believe the demons have a hold on this team. If I don't know. It's very funny though. We have seen a cycle where so in the first series, the Leafs won 3 straight, lost in OT, laid an absolute egg the next game. But then they won 3 straight again. So game 6 against Ottawa, 1-2, lost in OT, laid an egg. So listen, if I was a betting man, which I'm not.
I'm just emotionally betting. That I can't double down with finances too, man. This is already too much of a
No chance.
emotional bet. One stat I want to reference. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. My last point was that had to be like that. There can't be more rock bottom than that game. That's the only thing that's giving me some form of optimism, because we saw, I think, our first taste of rock bottom against Ottawa, and then the next game, how they responded was like heroic. I have to say, it was nothing short of awesome and fantastic, right? So that's giving me some optimism.
And how many of us expected it there, right? We were then back in a spot where it was like, nobody believes in you. Go make us look stupid. They did.
Yes.
How many people are in? I do think they have more believers at this. Honestly, right now, like it still feels like it is. It's a tied series. Like it's not doomsday, but yeah, like the demons are creeping back in.
But prove us wrong, right?
Yes.
Like that's it.
Yeah, and it goes back to you now. Like it's going to be a nervous Scotiabank Arena.
Yeah.
Until you give us a reason to not be, right? And
for sure.
They've done a good job, at least other than the game 5, of giving us a reason to not be nervous. The stat I wanted to reference was just you guys probably heard this too on the broadcast. The Florida Panthers record when leading after 1 period.
Oh my God!
Since the start of 2023, like when they flashed that stat, that might have been Mando when it's like, okay, I guess I'm processing the loss.
Yep. Yeah, it feels like
it was that moment.
Like 15-0. After a lead in the first period since the start of the 2023 playoffs is absurd.
That's ridiculous.
23-0 after having a lead going into the third is like just as ridiculous, but that first period one is like you don't see that stat in the regular season. Like it's always the reference of having blown a lead in the third period, and teams are like the best teams are like 35-1 and 2 and something like that. But this is over now. 2.5 playoffs. That they've managed to not lose a lead after the first period. That's a damning stat. Like,
I'll tell you one thing.
That's why you'll be nervous in the first period at Scotiabank Arena.
I'll tell you another thing. It's a recipe to win a cup and go to 2 consecutive cup finals, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But here's the stat I wanted to focus on, and I think Luke Fox said this after game 2, or he put this out after game 2. I think the Panthers' record after going down 2-0 in a series is 0-5. So let's hold on to that stat as Leaf fans. Now, that being said,
near to my heart.
How many times have we seen a player trying to score his 1,000th point and he played the Toronto Maple Leafs? Or how many times have, stats gone against the Leafs? More often than not. And maybe it's because we're focusing all our time and efforts against it. But obviously that stat to me means nothing. It's great, but it means nothing now that the series is tied, because this is a game of a best of 3. I think if Sheldon Keefe is behind the bench, and it's no disrespect to him, I have less than 0 faith. And I don't mean because of his coaching style or because of the person he is, just because the team didn't seem to respond in these moments in the past, in this specific case. But because Craig Berube is behind the bench, he's cool and he's calm, and it seems like he's the guy to steer in the right direction. I almost wish that something worse happened to them last night, like at the end. Like, I wish someone got cross-checked in the back from a Leafs perspective and they're injured, because you can use that as fuel to push the team forward like he did in St. Louis back against San Jose that took them to the Cup in 2019. And back when Stolarz gets injured, they're bouncing back after game 2 and winning that game.